PK52, the Saturday morning meeting. You know, I try to be current with every one of these. And so last week there was a debate, a debacle, depends on who you ask. Interesting. Let's just say interesting. There were several things brought up. And one of the things brought up was global warming. And whether you believe the science of global warming or you don't, I will tell you some constants. If you keep covering the world with concrete and asphalt, the world's going to get hotter. If you spew more carbon into the air, the world's going to get hotter. Some things we can't change. There are more people born every day. The population increases. There are more drivers every single year. Last year, in new cars alone, Toyota sold 1.88 million brand new cars. So I look at this and I look at, is there a solution? Some of the news out there right now is California has adopted a deal that by 2035, no carbon-based or fossil fuel vehicles will be sold in that state. Well, that's interesting. You know, you start looking at the science of this, that's going to require a gigantic amount of lithium. Lithium mines are open strip surface mines. And I'm wondering, do we have that much lithium? And if I'm driving from LA to New York, if my vehicle only has a 300 or 400 mile range, that's going to take a while. So by 2035, we may have a vehicle that's got battery life of a couple of thousand miles, or maybe a vehicle with solar panels that'll be charging while you're in the grocery store, because that's 35 years away. But is there something that we can do right now? I don't believe that anybody that lives in this country wants dirty air or dirty water. So we can forget about the controversy right now, and then we can see what we can do as a company or as a sales associate or service associate to put the mission forward to make air and water cleaner. So here's the deal. Toyota's a car company that I've worked with for over 30 years. They are revolutionary. And I'm not using that word just throwing it out. They're revolutionary, but one of the things they don't do is they don't get onto TV and say, look at us, we're the greatest in the world. They've just never done that ever. No matter who's been running the company, they've never touted how much of a genius of a car company they are. They're so good that other car companies have followed in the pace. We introduced hybrid. Other car companies now have hybrid now. We've got Prime cars out right now. So we've had an electric RAV before. So there's been a push to go to the lowering of carbon emissions. So let me take you through a background, because I think the whole concept of this merits something. It was part of news. It's on Twitter. It's on Facebook. You can't get on any kind of social or digital or marketed media right now and not hear somebody talking about toxicity of the air in the earth, global warming, and whatever. So what about a car company that developed partial zero emissions vehicles? Way back before anybody wants to drive them. Let's look at some drivers out there right now. Got a single guy, tough guy, single guy who drives a giant SUV. Doesn't have a receiver hitch on the back of his SUV, doesn't need four-wheel drive, doesn't have any passengers, very rarely in the vehicle, doesn't need the cargo space, but driving a giant SUV. If somehow, as a salesperson, I could get some kind of medium out to this person that they could drive a RAV4 hybrid and change the concept of what they're doing. I mean, I grew up in the 70s. Gas mileage on cars were, 6 to 10 to 12 miles per gallon. We burned leaded fuel, big engines at that time, when people drove older cars, and you could see the smoke and the oil burning coming out of the tailpipe. And you certainly didn't want to start the car in the garage with the door down, because you might not survive that. But over the years, the technology in vehicles have made the exhaust emissions cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. Some conversation about older vehicles. There's somebody out there driving a 10-year-old vehicle that has the older standards, that's getting higher miles on it, and it really is increasing the carbon footprint because of the technology and the age of that vehicle. If somehow I can move that person into a hybrid Camry, hybrid Avalon, a RAV Prime, then that one person changes their carbon footprint. Doesn't have to be a fully electric vehicle. That right there could change. So if every single person that's never been in a Toyota dealership before, that's never owned a Toyota before, would trade their 10-year or older vehicle in on a Toyota tomorrow, the footprint of carbon would change. Toyota sold 1.88 million new cars last year. The majority of the vehicles that we sell are close to or partial emissions, zero emissions vehicles. There's a Mirai. Let's talk about California. That's the biggest footprint we have for our hydrogen car, Mirai. Many people don't know anything about it. I have no idea why the press doesn't cover this vehicle as a revolutionary vehicle that could change the dynamics of automobiles right now. I think the concept was out in 2015. For you Mirai experts, forgive me because I wasn't involved in this. But we're driving the car in 2015, so the car's been on the road, and as I understand it, last month in California, certified Mirais, that's TCUV Mirai, Toyota used certified Mirais, retailed over 300 units. So those are units that have already been driven by the original owner, processed back as a pre-owned vehicle, taken through the certified program, and delivered, so over 300. So the vehicle works. There's no structure of hydrogen across the United States, but the emissions from that vehicle, water vapor. So if we're really interested in changing the carbon footprint, I mean, I understand factories and I understand the older buildings and everything, but the population is going to grow on the earth and people are going to drive vehicles. In the future, vehicles may change. There may be a concept out there, and I don't put it by Toyota that they're working on a concept right now that none of us can even understand. That's how brilliant this car company is. If I hear about it, I'm going to tell you because I have a hard time keeping secrets, but I haven't heard about it. But I know they're spending money in research on changing the dynamics and the outcome of emissions on vehicles. So as a salesperson, you've got social and digital media right now that doesn't cost you any money. Let me give you a little background. You guys followed me for a while. So Laura Madison, Laura Rainez now, she's married now, did a video years ago, and I'll just give you one. It was a turbocharger or supercharger on a Tundra. And you know, there wasn't a whole lot of information out there. So she did a video, interviewed the technician. She put it out there. And now if you go turbocharged Tundra, her video comes up #1 Google search. Now, she didn't pay for that. That was organic, but she became the brilliant person that was smart enough to put a video out there. She did all-wheel drive versus Prius front-wheel drive when it first came out because she lived in a snow belt where there was a lot of snow and winter weather, and how the Prius could be just as good on snowy roads as an all-wheel or four-wheel drive vehicle, and that video became #1. So we have the ability to be able to educate the population. There's a group of people that'll buy Toyotas. They'll come to your dealership. They'll use your service department. They're pro-Toyota people. But there are millions and millions of people that have really never owned our product. They've never been in a Toyota dealership before, and they really don't understand the brilliance of this car company. So it's in the media right now, and it's in the news right now. And it's being pushed out there at no cost to any of us. So why wouldn't a salesperson do a couple of videos on, let's look at what Toyota's doing now and in the very near future. Some of us won't make it to 2035. I'm just being honest. I mean, 2035 might not be a real thing for some people out there right now, but 2020 is, and 2021 is, and 2022. So I take you back to my 30 years in the car business. So let me go back to the early 90s. We're running $199 Camry lease ad deals. Well, you know what? I just saw a $199 Camry lease deal for 2020 this last week. So that from 1990, that's 30 years, gang. And it's still $199 a month. And we're still bending APRs. We're lowering APRs to drive traffic to the store. So for 30 years, we've done the exact same marketing. You know, 90-day deferral, 6-month deferral on payments. Hey, we'll pay off your trade no matter what you owe. And those ads are the same ads that I experienced in the very, very early 90s when leasing really started ramping up. They're still out there. They're still exactly the same. But there's nobody out there that's saying, okay, look, here's what you're driving right now. Here is your carbon footprint for the next 5 years because you're driving this vehicle. If this is what you do, normal driving, back and forth to work, back and forth to the grocery store, to the Little League baseball game, to the soccer field, then if you went to this vehicle, then this is your family's footprint in carbon for the next 5 years. Why is that not a good idea? Because everybody in America is talking about the environment and what's happening. We will not stop population growth. We're not going to stop countries from becoming more and more mechanized and becoming part of the world and global market, which increases carbon footprint. But currently, right now, the number of automobiles on the road that are not carbon and emissions friendly can be changed by putting each and every one of these people in a new, used, or certified Toyota vehicle. You know what? It's food for thought. Maybe I stepped over the political line today, but it's out there and we are actually prepared for it. And we've got a vehicle in California that's proven that would change everything. Because if I could fill that up and go across the United States, it works. Think about that. Think about how many customers out there that we could draw to the Toyota family. This has been PK52, the Saturday Morning Meeting.